space. I'm so happy to see you. And whenever I think of you, I remember this line that was written about one of your films, that the film not only provided, it didn't just provide a peep into the closet, it just, flung open the doors for the world to look in. And this is what you did for me, actually. As a person who grew up watching heterosexual love stories and uh, cinema where LGBTQ issues were either mocked or their perceptions were erased, meeting you was like a revelation for me, because you made me realize that not only with your work were you a profound thought leader of the LGBTQ movement in India, but you were also somebody who had, in a way, been a conversation starter for the gay community, for their rights in India. And you went on to, start the first Bravely Gay, you edited the first Bravely Gay magazine, Bombay Dost. And you were the founder, member of Humsafar Trust, first Indian NGO for gays, gay NGO rather. And then you you are the director of the Kashish Mumbai Queer Film Festival. And I first met you when you came to Bangalore with Purple Skies. And I've just watched you in awe and wonder. And I've always wondered how a shy Mandya boy, as you once described yourself, became Sridhar Rangayan. So tell me a little bit about this journey, because you grew up in a milieu where, even sexuality was not talked about. So how did you discover yourself and how did you come this far?
So it's been a very long journey. I'm now 60 years old. I turned 60, which was like, I don't know whether it's a landmark or what, but it's been a very, very interesting journey full of ups and downs. Right now, more ups rather than down. But when I was growing up, it was much more down because I was really very shy and introverted because I was complex because of one, I had a health issue I was complexed about, but also I suddenly discovered for myself that I liked men more than boys and men more than women and girls. And for me, that was a hugely complicated issue, especially I'm talking about the 1960s or 70s when I was growing up, 1970s when I was growing up. And there was no talk at all about homosexuality anywhere to be seen. I mean, absolutely nothing in the media. There were no books, there was no films. And one was totally confused. Why am I feeling such urges within me, and also coming from a very typical conservative Tam Bram family in a small town in south of India. It was very difficult for me to come to terms with my own desires and my own sexuality. It took me a long time. I was a very late bloomer. I came out to myself only when I was 26 years old or something, that late. Nowadays, youngsters just come out when they're 12, 13. They're saying, okay, Bob, I'm gay, I'm lesbian. But for me, I came out only when I was 26 years old. And that too, I kind of really took a long time to come out. So the reason is, one is, of course, the conservative family upbringing I had where, as you said, even sexuality was not discussed ever openly. Nobody really held hands in my home. Nobody ever hugged each other at home. Nobody ever kissed ever at home. So never, I mean, not just not homosexuality, but heterosexuality was also not evidently displayed. Of course, we had parents who were obviously heterosexuals, but we never had these boxes and terms and everything. They were just my parents, they were just my brothers and sisters, that's it. So coming basically to Mumbai and studying in IIT Bombay, and of course I've studied in hostels before IIT Bombay too. But and even in the hostels, I've had these flings with boys, my own age boys, but it was never discussed ever. It was all in the quiet of the night and never spoken about the next morning. It was completely under a shroud and a blanket. Everything was so hidden and secretive. So I, of course, I dated a girl when I was in college, of course, because that was a novel thing to do. So, but that I basically broke off because I felt it was not right. because the inner feelings of mine was conflicting with what I was trying to kind of portray outside. At least I had that much of wisdom even then. Back then, I was surprised to think about it right now. But then of course I even saw a girl. My family wanted to fix a wedding. Obviously, when I was older, I even met a girl for marriage. But then I told her also that I don't want to marry you. But I couldn't pinpoint a reason because I had not come out to myself even then. No, I think like the first person I came out to was my classmate at IIT Bombay called Sohail, and he basically had we were very close during my IIT days, and he basically started working for Bombay Dost magazine in 1990 when the first issue came out. Sohail was part of it, and he thrust this magazine into my hand. And when I looked at it, I was horrified. I said, like, how can you talk about something like this so publicly? No, your most innermost desire, and giving it a label gay, giving it a label homosexual. It was very kind of traumatic for me to even hold that magazine. But when I went to the privacy of my room and read it from first page to last page, I felt that like this is what I am. Okay, this is my true self per se, and I need to admit it. But it still took me almost 2 more years to come out to even Suhail, who tried to kind of coax me out of the closet by introducing me to his gay friends, took me to gay parties, where I was still straight guy. Even at a gay party, I was straight and pretending even because at that point of time, it was really complicated. There was absolutely no role models at all. Ashok Rao Kavi had come out just then, but and of course, I met him along with Sohail. So only in 1991, I came out to myself and joined the second issue of Bombay Dost. And then, of course, I was part of the Bombay Dost team. And then in 1994, myself, Sohail, and Ashok started Humsafar Trust, which was at that point of time the first ever NGO to publicly work with gay. At that time, it was called Male Sexual Health Agency because we couldn't call it a gay NGO, of course. We called it a Male Sexual Health NGO. And we work primarily about our health because one of the things at that point of time was nobody was talking about our physical health, mental health, nothing was addressed per se. So we basically, like a few of us got together and said, like, we need to come together to at least discuss how we feel in a social space. You could be having sex underground, unspoken, but like basically above ground, you should definitely meet up and discuss this. So for me, it was a huge learning process trying to understand. And also we drew some inspiration from basically the movement in US. In fact, like in 1994, there was this first gay conference, which was held in Mumbai, very secretively. And there we met almost like 150 people who came from across India and across the world. People came from San Francisco, people came from Canada, people came from New Zealand. And for us, it was a cathartic experience meeting so many gay men at one place and sharing our individual stories and finding commonalities in our stories. There's a universality of a gay experience. Whether you live in a small town or in a big town, you're always discriminated. You always have issues about yourself. First of all, yourself looking into the mirror and accepting that I'm gay is always the first big step, and that's always complicated. And even if people who have been brought up in, say, North America or other countries outside India, still people have issues about coming out because the families do not really accept them. So it's and also the society where we all live is so bounded by what they call the morality. So they talk about heterosexual morality as a primary morality, and anything which is non-reproductive is considered a sin. I mean, that really carried and kind of was a burden on our minds. And those days also, like, finding partners for sexual fulfillment was always fraught with this danger because you're meeting somebody who is completely a stranger and you don't know who is that person. You're sometimes bringing him home or going to his place or secretively kind of carrying on the sexual dalliances in a park or a public place. You could be caught by anybody, by a police person, by a hustler. And that has happened to me and so many other people from our generation. And all of us carry those scars even today. I mean, for me, those scars will never heal. I'm always scared about going out and having sex with somebody unknown, obviously. But of course, I don't need to because I have a partner right now, but that's a different story. But it's usually very, very complicated for people from my generation. Of course, 98% of the people from my generation got married to people of the other gender, because they couldn't really kind of come out and stand up against the social pressure. But few of us basically managed to kind of stand up and say, okay, we want to live the way life the way we want to. And also, like, I mean, the basic thing is not having a duplicity in your life. You sometimes say you don't want to be a Jekyll and Hyde. You don't want to be somebody in the morning and somebody in the night. You don't want to hide your true self from your parents and the people whom you love. That's the reason you need to come out. The reason is nothing like you want to push somebody out of the closet, but basically the reason you need to come out is that you stop being not true to yourself with your family members and to yourself. So I think that's really important. But again, each person's process of coming out should be different and can be different. And you need not come out if you're comfortable in the way. But I really think that, like, how long will you hide? And it's right now 2022. Come on, the law has changed. Everything has changed. It's high time that people come out, and also the society should be more accepting. But we are seeing positive changes. I'm happy that, like, I've seen so many changes within my lifetime.
Right. You once said that, sexual orientation is about identity. It's not about sex. That's what I remember you saying. Bombay Dost, I think, was an effort to give that space for people to express their identity, which had been invisibilized so much. I remember you also telling me that, when you used to take the content to the printers, they would giggle derisively. And yet you saw that whole shift slowly coming in. Do you remember? And it changed your life, as you told me. The magazine did change your life. But do you remember how it impacted some other people whose lives were changed, whose perceptions were changed during the journey of this magazine? Any instance that you can share or remember?
Yeah, I mean, Bombay Dost definitely kind of changed many people's lives because they've had the courage to find that, like, they're not alone in the world. I mean, suppose and we printed, I think, 500 copies of Bombay Dost, but it was read by almost like 20,000 people because each copy of Bombay Dost would change hands because they could not keep it at their own homes during those days. So they would read it and pass it on to their friends or some other person. Or if you go to a party, there'll be a Bombay Dost there and everybody would read it. So 50 people reading that magazine at a party. So Bombay Dost was read by more people than the copies we printed. And sometimes it reached places where we never figured out. It reached a prison, I think, in Indore or somewhere, from where the person wrote to us saying that I'm reading Bombay Dost in a prison. And it gives me so much of courage to kind of say only to myself. He is not able to say to anybody else, but at least to say to myself that there are other people who exist who are like me. So that's the reason I think most of us worked very hard to kind of visibilize the gay, our gayness, so to say. Because we felt that, like, if we are able to kind of even help one person who's struggling with his or her identity and who can be prevented from committing suicide or facing mental trauma, at least we would have done some little bit of job. That's the reason we kind of did the work we did at those days. And also at that point of time, HIV/AIDS was a big, strong component in LGBTQ people's lives. Because it impacted, and also it was like 1990s, and basically in US it happened in the 1970s and 80s, but in India the wave came much later, 1990s and 2000s. We're all really battling with the idea as to who's going to be HIV positive, how can we prevent being HIV positive, how can we save lives. We didn't at that point of time, we were not even thinking about mental health. We were only focusing on physical health. I mean, mental health issues. Talking about mental health came much later, but we are just talking about physical health that time. So I think when we were doing Bombay Dost work or Humsafar Trust work, the idea that it helped even one person or two persons across somewhere who don't even know, for that person to see a mirror of their own lives in somebody else's life. And the best part was, like, I think there's this whole thing called Pushkar, which was like a pen pal column in the magazine. So people would write to the pen pal box address because you cannot receive emails in your you cannot receive letters in your own homes. because you're closeted. So you would actually rent a post box in a post office. And so somebody would write and we would actually take that particular letter and post it to the other person through another envelope. So we like pigeons who would actually carry these messages from one lover to the other. And sometimes like for them, one person to connect and meet another person, it would take almost like sometimes like 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, and it needs to be patient. And most of the people, of course, had used to hide their own real name. They would give false names, so I mean, we have lived through all that, and also lived through a lot of blackmail by blackmailers who have extracted lakhs of rupees from people, and also been threatened by so many people. And also the police harassment has been extremely, I mean, those days, I'm talking about the 90s and 80s and 90s, the police harassment was huge, because they would catch you and actually, and you do not dare to say why you're catching me. That person would just say that, like, I mean, what are you doing? I mean, I think you're gay. So, and also the transgender people face the brunt of it. Of course, the gay men was still a little more. And of course, when we're talking about the 1970s and 80s and 90s, there were very few lesbian women who had come out. We, in our own group, we had maybe around 5 or 6 lesbian women who had come out. So it was very challenging for them, because they were doubly discriminated, one as a woman and also as a lesbian woman. So, and the challenge still remains. I think there's still, gay men are much more privileged per se,
Right.
they can lead their life a little more easily compared to lesbian and bisexual women and trans people per se.
Right. You had, I think, if I remember correctly, when you were making a film about the hearing impaired, I think that's when the idea of edutainment or advocacy through entertainment came to you. And yet that journey couldn't have been easy for you, because when you made India's first film about transgenders, which was The Pink Mirror, it was banned by the government, the censor board rather, in 2003, and for being offensive. So that was their explanation, and yet it traveled the world. It won awards, and it's been prescribed in universities. Um I just want to understand now that slowly things are changing and the representation of gay characters has increased. From the time when you started making films through Solaris Pictures, and at that time there was hardly any stories about gay characters. Now those dynamics are changing. The little more information and knowledge about awareness about trans rights, and more gay representation across OTT platforms. What do you like or dislike about the representation that you see? What are makers getting right or wrong? That is one. And also, what is it that we need as an audience to understand, to be more receptive to stories which are not coded, which are like authentic? Because for you, authentic storytelling is more important than just representation, which is kind of facile.
So when we started making LGBTQ films per se in 2002, at that point of time, there were hardly any films which were, which were focusing on LGBTQ themes per se. I think apart from Riyadh Wadia's Bomb Gay and a couple of other short films, there was hardly anything at all. So myself and my partner Sagar Gupta, we basically decided to launch our own production company called Solaris Pictures. And we had already been working with the television industry for many years. And we realized that there was no space for any of our stories in mainstream television industry. So we realized we need to start our own production company and start making our own films, however small budget, whatever. So the first film we made was called Gulabi Aina, The Pink Mirror. It was made in a budget of, I think, 1.5 or 2 lakh rupees, with more of our friends and people whom we know around, and even colleagues whom we had worked in television chipped in. But we're surprised that we managed to make a 40-minute film which traveled to almost 80 film festivals across the world. And we didn't know the business of film festivals at all at that point of time. We just made the film because we wanted to make a film, And we're really surprised that like once it went to a couple of festivals, more festivals started inviting it. But right from the first festival, the censor board refused the certificate, saying that it's vulgar and offensive. There was nothing absolutely vulgar or offensive in the film. We appealed 3 times. But basically, the objection to them was the film was anti-patriarchal. That there's like there's two quote unquote women, or basically men dressed as women, preying upon a man, and the man had no say in this whole relationship, and that was a problem. And also they said like, why are they talking he like she, addressing themselves as feminine gender, and also like one of the censor board persons said like, why they're not apologizing and crying for who they are, why they're celebrating themselves. But I said that's the way we look at. I mean, I'm an insider perspective. Okay, so from the insider perspective, we want to show the joy of being who you are, joy of being a drag queen, joy of kind of dancing and trying to seduce somebody, and the whole give and take between the people, the two drag queens, the bitchiness, the fun, but there's still basically like also the alternate family we were all forming. You know, when as I said, like when I was coming out, I had a set of friends who were so close to each other, and again, we were socially a socially knit gay group. We were not sexually exploiting each other, which is the big thing. A lot of times at that point of time, when we're talking about 90s, everybody was just want to sleep with other gay men. You know? Whereas we were at a bunch of 20 people who are great friends, and we formed an alternate family. And we want to show that through the Gulabi Aina. Anyway, so Gulabi Aina basically kind of went on to 80 festivals. And then we made our next one called Yours Emotionally, which where we went really kind of naked and truthful. And basically we had actually sexually explicit scenes in the film. I think this is one of the first films ever. I don't know whether it's like, it's not been seen much, but it's one of the first films to feature a gay kiss, and also like basically feature a certain romantic relationship between two men. And that film, we didn't even apply for the censor board because we knew that it'll never go anyway. But after that, we have made several films, 68 pages, and then we switched to documentary filmmaking, where we made Purple Skies and Breaking Free, and latest was Evening Shadows. So I say that like right now, it's a good time for making films about LGBTQ topics because there's more understanding about the community because of the media focus, and also so many youngsters who have come out and been able to talk to their parents I'm talking primarily in the metro cities per se, you know. So I think a lot more, also the web, the OTT platforms offer a lot more, I would say, leeway to tell these stories because they're not constrained by star value or market values per se. I think and you see a lot of OTT shows which nowadays feature a gay character or a lesbian character, and they feature it as if they're just part of the story and as if they're part of the society and not really focusing so much on their sexuality. I mean, some of the series right now, like Fame Game, where this female cop is there and she has a female partner, and it's a subplot, and the focus is not on her being a lesbian woman, but the fact that she's there and she does not hide herself from being a lesbian woman. These are really important breakthroughs in, I would say, and also so many other feature films which have come over the last 10 years. You know? Right. But I still feel that like one of the things is the LGBTQ people are not given enough space at the table to tell their own stories. A lot of the stories which are being told on OTT platform or in mainstream feature films are being told by non-LGBTQ people with sometimes no connect at all with the LGBTQ community. Okay, they might have kind of met one gay man or one lesbian woman and formed their entire understanding of a character through that one or two interactions. You know, I would imagine that like the people who that's fine. The field is supposed to be open. Everybody's supposed to make films on any topic they want. But when they're making films on LGBTQ topics, because it's still a sensitive matter, I wish the writers and the directors communicate with the community or involve somebody from the community in that. I'm not saying cast only LGBTQ people, but basically at least involve them as assistant directors, script editors, post-production, whatever. I mean, there's enough talent in the community, you know? Right. So I really think that we need to be given more space at the table to tell our own stories or shape the stories which are being told right now, you know? But we have come a long way for sure. But I really think we have not reached a point where we can make a big fat gay film and the crowd will throng to see that film, you know. So usually a lot of times the humor is used, you know, to tell a LGBTQ story, and that's a bit of sometimes a bit of why only use humor, you know. I mean, And of course, like lots have changed. Earlier, they were laughing at us. Now they're laughing with us, which is fantastic already. But I still feel that we need maybe serious dramas, maybe thrillers, maybe different kinds of formats where the LGBTQ character is there and the focus is also there. We need, a lot more on that. Yeah.
So that brings me to Evening Shadows, which was one such film. And you have been making films to not just, tell stories which are not familiar to the audience, but you want them to see gay people as normal, as part of the mainstream conversations and the issues, as much as possible. And I remember one thing, very beautiful thing that you once said. You said that you don't have to wait for others to change, to make a change. We can all be agents of change. And in this film, the agent of change is the mother, in a way. So I wanted to know why you chose her to be the agent of change, first of all, and how much of this story is observational or personal, and because it's slightly closer to the milieu that you grew up in. And the third part of this question is that if you could just talk a little bit about Mona Ambegaonkar's performance, which was loved widely whenever the film traveled abroad. 3 parts.
Okay, perfect.
To the question.
Okay, so I'll try to remember all of them. So basically, I think since I've been making films on gay or transgender characters in the past, we want to tell the story of the other side per se. So we want to tell how our families are experiencing this whole revelation of sexuality. So the entire, we felt that like sometimes when you come out of the closet, you push your parents into the closet. And usually a gay man is closest to his mother. So he comes out to his mother the first, I don't know too many gay men who go to their father and say, I'm gay. They are, of course, but the numbers would be much lesser. I think gay men are much more closer to the mother, and we want to explore how a mother reacts when a gay man comes out. And also we want to kind of set it out in a small town space. I mean, it could be very different. People have said, oh, why so much of drama? Why can't it be so more normal acceptance by the mother? But we are looking at a small town when the mother does not have any information about homosexuality or somebody being gay at all. I mean, absolutely, she didn't even dream about anything like that. She doesn't even, it doesn't exist in her vocabulary or any nearby circumstances per se. She perhaps the only person she knows is a hijra, So when he comes out, the gay man comes out, immediately she questions, are you a hijra, which is, of course, a wrong notion, but that's the existing notion in small towns, So we want to explore how a mother feels about their son coming out. But more so, I mean, I think what the Evening Shadows does is basically talks about the women position within the patriarchal society, that she, why is she not able to accept her son? Because she's already subdued by a dominant patriarchal structure and her husband being basically more dominant, So she has to stand up against her husband to basically be accepting of the son. So that's the whole thing. So it's I would say like more of a feminist film than a gay film. But that's the, one of the things is like, I mean, I drew a lot from my own personal experiences of having these conversations with my mother. So when I came out to my mother in 1994, she, of course, was very traumatized. Again, she's from a small town, very close to the milieu in Evening Shadows. So she was very traumatized and she couldn't understand at all what I was trying to tell her. So it took me almost, I would say, 5-6 years of constant talking to her over phone calls, over meetings, over letters, to help her understand, because we need to, it's like an onion where you need to peel the layers off to kind of reveal yourself, the inner you. And a lot of times, like, I mean, the baggage of society has actually kind of covered us with so many layers. We need to peel them for your parents. So it takes a lot of time. So I always advise to the youngsters, do not come out as a radical statement, come out and have conversations with your parents, make them understand. Because like for you, if you're taken, I took 27 years, nowadays some of the youngsters will take 17, 18 years to realize who they are. At least give your parents some time to understand and come to the point of your own understanding. You cannot just expect them to get up and say, okay, I accept you in all your, they accept you. Of course, they inherently, they love you and they accept you. But for them to formulate an understanding of you, who you are, what is your desires, what is your lifestyle about, who are you loving, how is this whole thing working out, what is your future? a lot of the parents are really worried about what is going to happen to my son later and when he's older, So very similar kind of situation. I didn't come out in a boat like the way the sun comes out. So I came out to my mother one dark evening. But the situations have been pretty much similar. And also I placed it in a milieu which I always knew and grew up. It's been shot very close to my hometown. So it's been shot in Srirangpatna, which is close to my hometown, Mandia. But everything is not my own story. It's amalgamation of many other stories, many gay men who come out to their parents, many mothers' stories. I've kind of spoken over the years to many mothers. So because that's what I always say, like you need to make your stories universal, then there should be a universality. And that doesn't come by just putting one experience, So only by expanding your experience, with various people, only then you can make it. So when you show Evening Shadows to any parent, they say, hey, this is like my own story kind of thing. And not just parents of LGBTQ children, just family members, parents resonated with the film because they felt, oh, this is how my husband also kind of treats me. This is the problems I could face. And we were really surprised when we took it to cities outside India, because we made it in a completely Indian Bollywood format. And we were really surprised that it resonated very well with audiences across the world, So the film is screened at almost 80 film festivals across the world and won 27 awards. So for us, it's a revelation that like how universal the story happened, to be, though drawn from one's own personal experience. So casting Mona Begakar was a no-brainer because I've known her since 1990 or something like that, when I was an assistant director with Kalpana Rajni, and she was the lead actress in a series we were doing in Assam called Dawn. Okay, so I was assisting Kalpana Rajni, and we formed a great bond. And from then onwards, I would kind of during all my television work, I would kind of cast her in different roles, whichever I could find. And she's been my muse all along. And I always visualized her as the mother Vasudha. And she kept telling me, and this film, the script was written 7 years before we made it. And she kept saying, "Jaldi bana lo, nahi to my grandmother ka role karna padega mujhe, I need to play the grandmother if you don't do it sooner, So, but we managed to basically make the film with crowdfunding because there's no support coming from anybody. Because most of the people we went to, they say, "Can you bring in stars?" So the idea for the film was not to have stars. It needs to be having the reality and a great performer. And Mona Begakar is a great performer, and we have full trust in her. And she really kind of worked very hard on this character. She brought in all internal emotions into the character. She would, of course, she's a great actress. She would cry without obviously glycerin or anything. But the nuances she brought in to the character was beautiful. And she also mentioned that like wearing, and we didn't have enough money, and also the authenticity we wanted to maintain. So we got a lot of costumes from my mother and my aunt. And she said that wearing those costumes, which was real used by mothers and aunts, made her kind of wrap herself in their bodies kind of thing, So that helped perhaps. So, and also casting the Devansh Doshi as a gay man was a big find because he was really super good. It was his first feature film, and so we kind of auditioned a lot of people from the LGBT community and actors per se. We managed to find this person who was a real find. So the Mona Begakar and Devansh Doshi synergized so beautifully, the mother and son. And a lot of people have been telling me that like they do not feel that they're watching a film. They feel that they're experiencing real life, and the dialogues are being like real spoken kind of dialogues. What I would speak to my mother, the way I would react, like Karthik basically goes and removes a towel from Vasudha's head, in most of the times. And it's like a natural thing to do for a son, So they feel so, most of the people have said like it's so natural and so real life. And we don't feel that we're watching a film, and the dialogues sound like real everyday conversation. So that's been the thing. And we have been trying to kind of make Evening Shadows 2. Hopefully we'll bring all the cast together. They're all ready, and we had a session of reading per se. So hopefully after Kashish 2022, we're going to get to the Evening Shadows.
So we've been talking about Evening Shadows, and the one thing that stands out in it is the relationship between the two men and the love story that they share. So in your case also, in your life also, the love story plays a big part creatively and personally. So uh, would you like to talk a little about the man in your life who's been the love of your life for so long, and how he has changed and impacted you creatively and personally?
Oh, wow. So that's a huge question. Personally, like, I mean, Sagar and I met each other in 1994, cruising each other. At that time, there was no dating apps or anything. The only way we could meet each other was either through friend circles at parties, or basically because there's no clubs, there was no gay parties. So it was all a blankness in 1994. So we just happened to meet each other on the streets cruising. Cruising is when you pass each other and basically make a sign and basically say that you want to have a coffee. And so we met that evening, and then basically something about him clicked and something about me clicked for him. We both share the same common interest in films and art and culture. And I think also realized that he's so giving and so caring. I don't know what he found in me, but for me, uh, so we just took it a day by day, one day at a time. We just said, okay, 1 month ho gaya, let's celebrate a monthly anniversary. And wow, 1 year ho gaya, let's celebrate a yearly anniversary. So similarly, like 27 years have passed, and we have lost now count of time. So after around 8 9 years, we realized that like this is for life. We are meant for each other, and also like we managed to meet each other's families. Families basically came around and said we love. So my family loves him, and his family loves me. So all that became a bonding. So now we are pretty much like a heterosexually married couple per se. So though we don't have marriage rights, which I think has to be in place very soon. Same-sex marriage rights is a really crucial thing for most of the LGBTQ people who are living with their partners or intend to live with their partners or even otherwise. And it's a basic human right. I mean, if you're part of this, if you're a citizen of the country, if heterosexuals are getting allowed to get married, why not homosexuals and trans and bisexual people? So basically, the thing is like, I mean, we need to get married to kind of have each other's assets. I'm not able to nominate him for any of my property. Not that I don't have money per se, but whatever little bit I have or the rights to our films, we're not able to nominate each other. And also the right over each other's body. That's so important. If I fall ill tomorrow and I have to have a surgical process, he's not able to come to the hospital and sign for me. And that's a huge bummer because we have been living together for so long, and if he cannot sign for me, if he cannot take care of me, who will? So I mean, like they only at hospitals and everything, they're going to wait for the kith and kin to come and sign up. So for that, at least we need the marriage right, because if you have shared each other's life for so long, we should have right over each other's bodies and assets per se. So I just hope the Same-Sex Marriage Act comes through soon. A lot of people say, why do you want to get married? We don't want to have a Karan Johar big fat wedding per se, like a Karan Johar film, but we definitely want to get married so that we have this right, which is a basic right everybody has. So yeah, I mean, he's been a dialogue writer and production designer for most of the films. We work together, we live together, we are in each other's hair for 24 hours. So we fight a lot, but we also kind of patch up the next day. And for us, that has worked per se, that we never carry our disagreements or fights to the next day ever, we resolve it the same day. Yeah, I mean, I just hope that like more and more people are able to find their, and whenever I see on some of the online social networks, people say, oh, it's so difficult to find partner, because I think people have too many expectations of what a partner should be. I would say that like, find the person and make that relationship work, that's what I would say. That's been my experience with myself and Sagar. We have made the relationship work. Neither were basically cut out for a relationship. Neither had any preconception of what a relationship should be. And in 1994, nothing was pre-written. Nobody knew. There was no films to look forward to in an Indian context per se. So if we can make it work, for sure, everybody can make it work. I hope so. And I hope everybody finds not that being single is a bad thing. I mean, you can be single, but if you're looking for a partner, I would say don't be so desperate and frustrated and basically look for that one ideal person. I would say, since there's no arranged marriages right now for LGBT communities, so if you have to look for your own partner, I would say don't make compromises in your what you're looking for. but I would say you will need to make adjustments with your partner to realize that relationship. And I'm sure it's in every relationship, and especially more so because there's no foundation of a marriage right now. There's no foundation of social pressure to bring us together. All the pressure has been to break us apart, and we have survived this. So yeah, and take pleasure in simple things like going shopping together, having a cup of coffee outside in the rain. These are simple pleasure which bond you per se.
We've been talking about your passion for authentic storytelling. So I think Kashish was also born from this desire to create a platform for authentic, LGBTQ stories. So what can we look forward to in Kashish 2022? And that is one. And another is funding easier to come by now than it was before? And third, how has the audience evolved during this journey with the festival?
Okay, so basically the thing is like the reason we started Kashish was basically to kind of, I've been traveling with my films across the world, and I saw how communities can be built around film festivals, whether it's LGBTQ community or basically film puffs per se, who gather together to kind of enjoy films on the big screen and network with each other, form a kind of bonding. So in 2009, basically when the Delhi High Court read down Section 377, we felt that it was the right time to basically host the LGBTQ film festival in the mainstream space. The idea of Kashish when we started and till now has been that like one is supposed to be a celebration for the LGBT community to watch their own films on the big screen without any kind of apprehension or anxiety, watch it with their friends and families and colleagues and lovers. And also for the non-LGBTQ community to be able to get a peep into LGBTQ lives through the films which you're going to be showing and through the discussion. And also for a lot of the non-LGBTQ people, sometimes when they come to Kashish, they've never met a single gay man or a lesbian woman or a transgender person. They might have seen a hijra on the streets, but they never come in contact with that person, never ever met a lesbian person or a trans person, spoken to them. And Kashish offers a space, a safe space where people can intermingle with each other. People can wear their badges if they want to, saying that I'm gay, I'm lesbian, I'm transgender. But if they just want to not wear the badges, it's also welcome, So people can be whoever they want to be. Some people want to dress up. They can dress up the way they want to. They can behave the way they want to, with of course the public morality in place per se. So Kashish offers a safe space for intermingling of LGBTQ people and non-LGBTQ people. And we get almost 30% of non-LGBTQ people coming to the festival. And that's a sizable number, So we started very small in 2010 with a small 125-seater, which is the PVR cinema. As we said, we want to place it in the mainstream theater so that we the idea is to mainstream queer visibility, So so we started in 2010 with a small thing, and then after 2014 onwards, we have been at Liberty Cinema, which is like 1,200 seats, Art Deco theater in Mumbai, and we pretty much fill up the entire theater. And it's a huge celebration when 1,200 people cheer a single dialogue in a film or clap or cry, and I mean it's a goosebump moment per se. So the audience taste have also evolved per se. In the earlier years, we used to basically get more gay men attending the festival, and they want to see this rom-com, buff-bodied, sexy guys on the big screen, But over the years, in fact, the audience also said that, oh, those kind of films we can watch on our laptop, What we want to see is films from around the world, nuanced films, layered films, films which speak about different cultures, show different segments of the LGBTQ population. So we, of course, have a mix of basically both films which are entertaining, like a quote unquote more, I would say, drama and comedy and stuff like that. But we also have films which are basically talking about real issues. We have documentaries, we have short films. And and also like, we try to source films from countries where being LGBTQ person is still a problem, like say Iran, like Lebanon right now is much better for them now, but Syria, there's so many other countries in Africa where being LGBTQ, so we try to source some of those films where we kind of show it at Kashish and offer a window to our audiences to understand. I still feel that like in India, we are much more privileged, because India is not very actively homophobic kind of country. I mean, we're not stoned to death, thankfully, mercifully. We are not punished so badly. So, so I really think that we need to also see how privileged we are by seeing people who are more challenged per se, and also seeing positive stories of other countries where being gay is just being normal, like you have two moms, two dads of a gay family. So these are some of the beautiful stories. And Kashish 2022 is going to be like, finally, we are breaking the jinx of the 2 years of online events per se. We are doing it in a physical event at Liberty Cinema again, and also Alliance Française de Bombay. But we're also going to do a hybrid event where people from, and also over the last 2 years, we basically also gathered a set of audiences who who are not able to come to Mumbai to watch the festival. They will watch it across India and across the world. So we are going to be hybrid per se. We're going to be from June 1st to 5th is going to be the physical festival, and June 3rd to 12th will be the online festival. So the this year is much more challenging to kind of raise finances. When we did the online film festival, it's much more easy because we didn't need so much of money to run the festival. We could just pay to the screening fee and etc. and the portal etc. We could do that. But now hiring a physical theater, hiring a whole set of equipments and everything, and getting a whole set of volunteers, everything is going to kind of cost money. So it's a real challenge. And some of our partners who have been with us for many years have come back and supporting us. But many of the partners have kind of gone away too because of the COVID thing. Their businesses have shrunk. They have to kind of do some cost cutting. And Kashish, of course, does not figure on priority of anybody's list of bus sponsor kind of thing. So we have lost a few sponsors, but we also hopefully be able to sustain with the sponsors who have been with us. We just hope that like more and more audiences come to see it. We are putting it together with a lot of effort. We just want to make sure that the audiences are going to be at the theaters to watch this. And that's the main reason. I mean, the reason myself and Sagar have been doing it for last 13 years is not because we are not earning any money out of it. I still travel in auto rickshaws. I do not have a home of my own, but the passion, the joy of just showing this and people appreciating good cinema, So we get almost 800 submissions. For us to painstakingly, with a team of 10 people, narrow it down to 185 films. This year we're showing around 185 films. I mean, it's a lot of process. It takes almost like a full year to build a festival, So I just hope that people recognize the effort and also come and appreciate the films which we're putting up. And also the opening night and the closing nights are great spaces where we have performers, whether it's a song or a dance or a music. It's going to be a great fun. So we are really looking forward to the physical screenings of Kashish per se this year. One of the challenges also has been basically like even some of the filmmakers, of course, like the big ticket filmmakers, they have to also earn their money because they've also been broke. So they're asking for big screening fees, which we cannot afford. So we basically are making do with whatever we can get per se, but we still are, I think, putting together a balanced thing. And this year's theme is Flights for Freedom, talking about how we all been so cooped up because of the lockdown and the COVID, and we're all ready to fly per se. So the theme is Flights for Freedom, and we hope that we can make it a big success. We just hope so. Yeah.
For you, I think filmmaking is it's about empowering other people in a way to some extent, and yet you work in an industry where to work intentionally is very rare, right? People don't create content to make a difference. They create content to make profit. So how do you, in this kind of an industry, manage to find the hope that I see you radiating always? How do you manage to smile so much? Because I'm sure you've battled odds which are like unthinkable for so many of us. And you have this attitude of, positivity and gratitude, which I just find so, uplifting. How have you managed to hold on to it all through these years?
So that's a crazy question per se. So when we made our first film, there was no backers per se, and we made our last film also. There's no industry backing per se, only crowdfunding backing. People put their money. So which for me, I wish that I was not making some of these films per se. I would be making more mainstream work, not gay or not LGBTQ, and basically making more heterosexual romances where I could have lived a comfortable life. But the fact that like when you see your film, kind of when you attend a screening and you're screening at an audience, and after the screening somebody comes up and says that how touching that film was and how meaningful that film was, or how life-changing that film was, or how they're going to take back something from the film to implement in their lives, that definitely would kind of help me, nudge me to go in the same direction. Though I really want to travel the different direction, but I'm not able to. I'm stuck in this rut now, and that kind of I'm just going in the same direction. And I just hope that like there'll be some payoff at the end of the road, because I really been waiting very long so that like I, with all the films I've done, I hope to make a commercial film with LGBTQ focus. That's the basic thing. I won a national award for best editing for Breaking Free, but that didn't bring me any producers. Evening Shadows was a great success, film festival wise, awards, etc., but has not brought me producers. So I really think maybe I need to take a look, strategize how I can do my next project without so much of anxiety and tension. But the fact that like whenever I put out a call for crowdfunding, at least 200 people come to support. They could give just 2,000 rupees, 4,000 rupees, 500 rupees. But the fact that they believe in our work, the fact that they believe in myself and Sagar's work per se, for me, that's a huge thing. And that kind of basically justifies all the hard work we do. So yeah, it's basically passion which drives us. But I don't know how long we'll sustain a passion. We are 60. I'm 60. Sagar is almost 54. So it's going to be tough to just survive on passion. So, but I just hope that like now with the OTT platforms supporting more LGBTQ focused stories, but I just hope that they give opportunities to LGBTQ filmmakers to tell the story. That's not happening right now. That's the sad part, and also for LGBTQ actors to play those parts. For me, the transgender actors transgender actors have to play transgender parts. There's no two ways about it. I'm not saying gay or lesbian people, but when you're casting a male actor for a male role and a female actor for a female role, you should cast a transgender actor for a transgender role. That's, it's really basic. That cannot be done away with per se. And all this, I watch that, we need to have the market. So if you're having basically another actor who is a big star, you can ride on his shoulder, but you can still work with a transgender actor. And if that person does not have the skill set, build the skill set. You can have workshops, you can train them, you can make them a star. That's the way it should be. So I'm still waiting for that to happen, but I think we are good, on a good wicket right now. Things are moving better. And also the understanding by people across, people watching these films in the theaters are appreciating, whether it's like a Shubh Mangal Jada Saavdhan or Ek Ladki Ko Dekha or Evening Shadows or any of these films which have been Badai Do, the latest one. But I keep getting very irritated by some of the people online when they say, oh, there's too much of gay content now.
I saw that on the timeline.
There's too much of gay content now in every series. Out of 40 characters in a series, one character is a lesbian woman. And that too, she doesn't hog the entire limelight of the entire story. But why you have a problem? And people said that on my wall. I said, what is too much? Like there's nothing, no portrayal for years and years and years. And at least like we get around 0.1% portrayal space right now. Let's at least say, okay, you also enjoy the small little space. And I hope the space grows. We need to have LGBTQ people in the kind of principal actors, principal characters in the OTT series. I hope that, yeah. But people already are grumbling. And I said, what is this? You've had a free ride for so many years. At least let's tell our stories a little bit at least, But I think some of the things are like, for me, some of the recent web series has been fantastic. I think Inside Edge featured a gay kiss between a cricketer and his lover in the stadium. And Fame Game had this lesbian woman and this wonderful portrayal of this gay boy. And also, I think so many other series right now is like showcasing LGBTQ stories and treating it as normally, quote unquote, and that for me is a way to go per se. Yeah. I also draw hope from the youngsters nowadays who are more open about who they are. Of course, the internet boom and the social media has really kind of opened up doors a lot more, But I think the youngsters have taken it upon themselves to be more brave and courageous and come out and live their true identity. And that really gives me hope. And I hoping that the youngsters will change the society much faster than we managed to do in the last 30 years, So I just hope that the change is much faster and the more acceptance by the general society of the LGBTQ community. I still see, I mean, like in the small towns and the villages, people are still getting married, the gay men getting married and lesbian women getting married against their wish. So all that has to stop, and also victimizing transgender people have to stop per se, and more understanding of trans men, non-binary persons, intersex persons. All that is still a dream. So, but I hope these dreams come true very soon. I just hope so. Yeah.
And one last thing, if you could say to somebody who's feeling alone, invisible, and without hope today, what would you say to them?
I would say that, like, if I can be out and open, coming from a small town, heaped with the whole social stigma and discrimination, I had the same problem. And nowadays, like, some people say, like, even educated people from IIT say that, oh, I can't come out to my mother. Why so? You can definitely come out to your mother. You can come out to yourself, and definitely, basically, gently. Don't push your buttons so hard. I would say gently, first of all, understand your own feelings, understand where you come from, and where you're going. And I would say secure your life first. Don't come out in a hurry, because, like, if you're thrown out of the home, then, or if your education is stopped, then you're going to be more in trouble. So I would say take your time, come out to yourself first, be comfortable, build a set of friends around, both from the community and from not from the community. Basically, build a set of safety nets for yourself, and then come out to your family members. And I'm sure, like, if you come out with love, most of the family members will accept you. So do not be afraid. I will say that if I can come out and live my life openly, and so many years back, right now you definitely can.
What is next apart from the sequel to Evening Shadows? Is there something that you're looking forward to making?
Yeah, so always, like, Kashish takes away 7 months or 8 months of my time, so that I'm hardly left with much time for my filmmaking work. So to change my cap and become a filmmaker. But we hope to kind of do the Evening Shadows part 2 end of this year. We hope to shoot it. And also there's this very ambitious project which is called Songs of Eternal Love, which is an Indo-American project where it's a beautiful love story between a Jewish American and an Indian Muslim guy, and it's a beautiful love affair with the songs in it and Sufi music, and also talking about the conservativeness of Judaism and Islam, and how these two religions can kind of come together to be more accepting. That's a very ambitious project, international project. I just hope that been brewing in our computer folder for almost like 6-7 years now. I hope we have managed to put it out into the world for least.
I just want to thank you for your, I know you get exhausted. I know this has been a challenging journey for you, but I wish you great power. I wish you great success. I wish you great abundance, because you deserve it, and nobody deserves it more than you. And I want to thank you for making people like me less ignorant and more aware of the stories that need to be told and heard and seen. Thank you for your patience with me and your time.
Oh, no, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
You know why I'm saying that. So.
Yeah, totally. But, like, it's a pleasure talking to you. And you're a person I look up to, because I really think that your posts on Facebook and social media are really eye-opening. And I'm really happy to be reading that. Every time I read your thing, I said, wow, she's saying the truth. I keep saying the truth.
We are standing.
I know it's very difficult saying that I keep saying the truth, but you and Mona Megakar should continue to say the truth always, and more power to you people, for sure.
We are standing on your shoulders, sir.
Oh, thank you.
You've made the way for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, this is Reema, and if you liked what you just saw, then do like and subscribe, because remember, this is a safe space for people to talk, share their stories, to hear each other, and basically make some time in their busy lives for unboxed conversations.